Hello, Shemai and Gia Rich. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the common misconception that the word Welsh means foreigner and that the words from which Welsh descend mean foreigner. I say it's a common misconception. You see this almost everywhere, especially online. You even see it in places like Wiktionary, and you find a lot of Welsh people that are passionate about Wales, also think that English people, when they're calling Welsh people Welsh, they're calling them foreigners or strangers. Now, this isn't the case at all, particularly not in the modern day, and well, it never has been that they're calling them stranger or foreigner. There is one example that I know of that the word Welsh possibly means foreign, and that word, it's kind of not really relevant, and I'll explain to you why. That is the term, the Welsh onion. This onion is from China, I believe. It was named the Welsh onion by a Swiss person, not an English person. So either in Swiss German, the word Welsh has come to mean foreign, or maybe the person who named it was under the impression, like a lot of people are, that the word Welsh means foreign, and he thought it was a cool term, so he was like, you'll call it the foreign onion, the Welsh onion. Or the other possibility is that a Welsh onion has a white bulb, and it goes up into a green stem, and it has these frayed bits at the top, and it looks also almost like a leek. And now a leek is one of the symbols of Wales, and so maybe he just thought it looks like a leek, and a leek is a symbol of Wales, and maybe that's what a Welsh onion would look like. I'm not sure. So I can't definitely say that the word Welsh there means foreign. If you do know in Swiss German if the word Welsh has developed to mean foreigner, can you let me know in the comments? That would be really helpful. But my main thing about this is that it's not an English person that named it, and it's not part of the English language. It may have developed to mean that in Swiss German, but it doesn't mean that in English. I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey through time to as far back as we can trace the word Welsh, the origins of the word Welsh confidently, and I'll show you how each person used it over the various time periods, or each people used it rather, how these cultures used the word. Now, the furthest that we can trace it back is to a Gaulish tribal name, so it's a Celtic term, and it's Walcas. Walcas. Now, Walcas means the hawks in Gaulish. You often find this name in its Latinized form as Walcae, Walcae. And these Gaulish people, or a branch of these Gaulish people, the Walcas Techtosages, they began a series of migrations. One of the places that they migrated to was what is now modern-day Germany. And they settled there, and the Proto-Germanic speakers around the Walcas loaned this word Walcas as Walchas, and they didn't just apply it to this group of Gauls, they applied it to all Gauls. So all Gauls to them are Walchas, or were Walchas. So the first instance we have of Germanic speakers using the term Walchas or Walcas is specifically refers to Gaulish people. Now, this tribe, the Walcas Techtosages, they also migrated to Anatolia, and they became the Galatians, and they began importing walnuts to Rome, and that is why we get the Latin term for walnut, which is nux gallica, just means the Gaulish nut. And they imported these nuts into what is now Germany, and the Proto-Germanic speakers there called walnuts Welchas genoets. So Welchas genoets means walnut, which is Gaulish nut, and Welchas became wal and genoets became nut. So walnut is literally Gaul nut or Gaulish nut. I just thought that was a nice little bit of information, very interesting. So anytime you see a walnut, it's actually a Gaul nut. So a little bit later on in time then, we have the Roman subjugation of Gaul, and the Gaulish people became integrated into Roman society. They became the Gallo-Romans, and the Proto-Germanic speakers, calling the Gaulish Walchas, just continued to call the people who lived in Gaul Walchas. So now what's happened is that Romans, Latin speakers, are being called Walchas as well as Gaulish people. And this is where we get terms like Wallachia, which was part of a part of what is now Romania, and that's because the Romanian people were Romans. That's why they're called Romanians, and their language was, and the Romanian language developed from Latin. So we get the term Walchas now includes Gaulish people and it includes Romans, but it doesn't mean foreigner. It doesn't mean foreigner at all. It can be used more akin to kind of how English speakers use Scandinavian when they're talking about a specific group of people from this area, from a specific area. They're not talking about any foreigner in general. I couldn't just call someone from Japan Scandinavian. So Walchas still doesn't mean foreigner. Years later, hundreds of years later, we get the migration of Germanic speakers, pre-Old English speakers or Old English speakers coming over to Britain and becoming the Anglo-Saxons. And they called the people in Britain Walch, which is a derivative of Walchas. Now, they either were already calling the people of Britain Walchas and Walch at the time, which I imagine that is the case because, number one, Iron Age British society was a lot like Iron Age Gaulish society. And number two, the Romans also invaded Britain and kind of incorporated a lot of Britain into Rome. So there's a good chance that they'd already been calling the natives of Britain Walchas or Walch before they migrated there, before the Anglo-Saxons. Now later on in the Old English period, we see an actual distinction between Romans, because they began having words for Romans specifically, and the term Walch, which was specifically used for Britons at this point. So that tells you that if they're specifically using the term for Britons, this term Walch, it doesn't mean foreigner, it actually means native Briton. So English people aren't calling you a foreigner, they're calling you a native of Britain. And this is why we get the word Cornwall, and that's because the Old English speakers were calling the people of Cornwall Walch as well, because they were a native Briton, and that's why we get Cornwall. This little wall at the end is the same word as the WAL in Wales, because they're the Corn Welsh, originally derived from the Celtic tribal name Cornoi. Now we come to the modern day, and we have the word Welsh, which is derived from Walch, and it just means of Wales. It just donates that something is from Wales, someone is from Wales, that is native to Wales. It doesn't actually have any connotations about being foreign at all. No English person is going to use the term Welsh to mean foreign. They're just going to use it to mean Welsh. And before that, they were just using it to mean native Britain. So there's no need to be offended by the word Welsh, because English people are just calling you native, essentially. Well, they're not, they're just saying that you're from Wales. But if we trace it back further, it just means native. And if you go back further than that, they were originally calling Gaulish people, which were Celtic speakers as well as Welsh people. So they were calling Celts Walchas. So it's meant Celt, it's meant native Britain, and it's meant of Wales. It's also had the term to mean Roman as well, but that's because the Romans were in Gaul. So really that's just a summary of the word Welsh. I don't think anyone should be offended by it. It's probably a really nice thing that they're calling you Welsh, if anything. And I hope you've learned a lot from this video. I hope you're interested. If you do have any comments or any counter arguments or anything you'd like to ask me, please let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for coming to watch the video, and I'll see you again soon.